King Charles III had finally admitted the one truth he had spent more than 3 decades avoiding. He never truly tried to save his marriage to Diana, and that long overdue admission was the moment the monarchy began to fracture. William looked at him with a stare that cut deeper than words, not as a son, but as a man who had waited his entire life to hear those words spoken aloud. Harry said nothing, but his fists clenched, trembling with quiet fury. He didn't cry, the pain had long since scarred over. And then there was Camilla, the woman who once lived in the shadows, now standing as queen, frozen at the edge of the spotlight. She understood in that instant, she may wear the crown, but she would always come second. No matter how high she stood, she would always be beneath one name: Diana. Charles's apology rang out into a room frozen in breathless silence. It wasn't a political gesture. It wasn't a calculated act of damage control. It was a confession raw, late, and irreversible. And from that moment on, the House of Windsor began to crack. Not because of a scandal, but because the truth at last had spoken. Rain falls softly outside Clarence House, casting a misty veil over the royal gardens, as if nature itself seeks to conceal the secrets stirring within. In a quiet study, the golden glow of a lamp illuminates the lined face of King Charles III. He sits alone, his frail hands trembling as they grip an ancient cassette player, a relic from an era when the royal family drowned in whispers no one dared voice aloud. His finger hovers over the play button, then presses down. The voice of Prince Philip, sharp as a blade, pierces the stillness. "You're burning your throne for a woman the public will never forgive." Charles closes his eyes, his breath heavy, as if each word from his father lands like a hammer on his soul. He's listened to this tape hundreds of times, yet it still tightens his chest with regret. Those words weren't just a warning, they were a curse, a prophecy of his own downfall. His reign has barely begun, but the shadows of his past, the broken marriage to Princess Diana, the public scorn over his affair with Camilla, and the widening cracks in his family weigh on him like a mountain he cannot shed. He rises his weary legs, carrying him to the window where he gazes into the darkened garden. The rain falls steadily, each drop summoning painful memories. Diana's disappointed eyes, the crowd's jeers, and his own feeble voice trying to justify his mistakes. In a rare moment of raw honesty, Charles turns to his closest aide, Sir Edward Young, who stands silently by the bookshelf. His voice is hoarse, as if the truth takes all his strength to speak. "I never truly tried to save that marriage. And the cost was an entire dynasty in ruins." Edward, accustomed to the king's introspective moments, nods faintly, but his eyes betray unease. Charles isn't just reflecting on the past, he's confessing, and that confession could ignite a storm beyond control. Edward bows his head, murmuring, "Your Majesty, these words. If the public hears them, it won't just be a scandal. It could shake the throne itself." Charles doesn't reply. He returns to his desk, his hand absently brushing a small photograph, a snapshot of him, Diana, William, and Harry on a sunlit day at Highgrove. Diana's smile in the image is a piercing reminder of all he's lost. In the weeks that follow, whispers ripple through the palace. Sources close to the king reveal he's been quietly meeting those he's wronged, expressing deep remorse for his mistakes. But the most pivotal encounter takes place on a frigid evening at Sandringham, where he faces William, his eldest son, who bears the weight of the throne's future. In a cozy drawing room, the fire crackles, but it can't dispel the tension. Charles grips William's hand, his eyes red with anguish. "I hurt your mother," he says, his voice trembling. "I hurt you, but I want to make it right, William, even if it's too late." William's face is stoic, but his eyes blaze with suppressed emotion. He stands tall, shoulders rigid, as if holding back decades of simmering anger. "You know, Father," he replies, his voice low, "but cutting the cost wasn't just the throne. It was us, this family. You chose Camilla, and Mother paid with her life." William's words strike like a blade, and Charles recoils, his face paling. In that moment, they're no longer king and heir, just a father facing the consequences of his choices, and a son carrying a wound that will never heal. The door closes behind William, but his words don't stay in Sandringham. They seep through palace corridors, past loyal aides, and finally reach someone who cannot ignore them. Camilla, the new queen, quietly watching Charles's every move. The storm breaks on a grim March morning in 2025 as London's skies hang heavy with clouds, foreshadowing a scandal that will rock the kingdom. The Times, Britain's most trusted newspaper, drops a bombshell on its front page, an unpublished memoir by Princess Diana discovered in a hidden safe in an old royal estate. Her handwritten words, trembling yet raw with pain, cut like a knife into the hearts of millions. I wasn't just alone in my marriage. I was isolated in an institution with no escape. I tried, but Charles's heart was never mine. I don't blame him for loving another. I blame him for letting me believe I had a chance. Diana's words, honest and heartbreaking, are a cry from the past, reawakening a grief the public thought they'd buried. Each sentence, each word carries the weight of a truth long suppressed, an accusation that needs no anger to devastate. Within hours, Diana's voice trends globally on social media. From London to New York, Sydney to Tokyo, posts flood the internet. Diana spoke the truth. Our princess deserves justice. Outside Buckingham Palace, hundreds gather, despite the freezing drizzle, holding signs with Diana's image. In her iconic white silk dress, her eyes bright yet shadowed with sorrow. Their chants echo through the iron gates, fierce and unyielding. Justice for Diana, truth for our queen. Some lay white roses at the palace gates, a belated tribute to the Queen of Hearts. International media frenzy ensues, with headlines screaming, "Diana's memoir shakes the monarchy," and Charles faces public fury. In a private meeting room at Clarence House, the air is thick with tension. King Charles III sits silently at the head of the table, clutching a newspaper, printing the memoir excerpts. His eyes are hollow, staring into an abyss with no escape. Around him, media advisors argue heatedly, their voices laced with panic and desperation. A young advisor, pale with fear, speaks up. "Your Majesty, we can't stay silent. The public demands answers. If we don't act, they'll write their own story, and it won't favor the monarchy." An older advisor counters, "But admitting fault will only fuel the fire. We need to control the narrative, shift focus to Your Majesty's or Queen Camilla's charity work." Charles raises his head, his voice hoarse but firm, cutting through the chaos. "Enough. There's no turning back. If I keep hiding, I'll lose everything, not just the public's trust, but my family. I'll give them the truth. Not all of it, but enough to show I'm not running." The decision stuns his advisors. Charles will speak at a public ceremony at Westminster Hall, an event originally planned to honor charities. But as he steps to the podium, facing thousands of eyes and millions more on television, the atmosphere grows suffocating. The crowd falls silent, only the patter of rain audible outside. Charles takes a deep breath, his hands gripping the wooden lectern knuckles, white from the strain. He begins, his voice trembling, stripped of royal poise. "We haven't always been right," he says, each word dragged from his heart. "I haven't always been fair. Princess Diana deserved more love and respect than she received. For that, I am sorry." The hall freezes, as if time itself pauses. The public is stunned. This is the first time a reigning monarch has publicly admitted personal fault before the nation. Some in the crowd weep, others whisper in disbelief. Social media explodes. Charles finally speaks. Is this the start of justice? But not everyone is satisfied. Some call his apology too late, too vague, lacking real commitment to amends. Behind the scenes, in a private room at Clarence House, Camilla, now queen, cannot hide her fury. The opulent room with its Persian rugs and oil paintings feels claustrophobic under her rage. She slams her hand on an ebony table, making a crystal glass tremble. Her eyes blaze as she shouts at the nearest media advisor, "Who did this? Who dared dig up the past to destroy me? Diana's been gone for decades. Why does she still haunt me like a ghost that won't fade?" The advisor, a middle-aged man with a strained expression, nervously hands her a sealed royal envelope containing a small cassette and a handwritten transcript. Camilla, hands shaking with anger, plays the tape. Prince Philip's stern, icy voice fills the room as if he's standing before her. Camilla isn't just Charles's lover. She's a manipulator, and she won't stop until she has everything, even the throne. The tape ends, and Camilla hurls the file to the floor, papers scattering. Her face pales, her hands trembling uncontrollably. She sinks into a chair, her eyes burning with fear and fury. Despite her crown, despite standing by Charles through decades of scandal, Diana's shadow remains her greatest threat. This recording, found in a secret palace archive, isn't just a warning from the past, it's proof someone close to someone powerful, is plotting her downfall. Camilla rises, strides to the window, and stares into Clarence House's dark garden. The rain falls relentlessly, but in her mind a plan takes shape. She won't let Diana, even in death, steal what she sacrificed her life to gain. If they want war, she whispers to herself, I'll give them a war. Meanwhile, at Kensington Palace, William receives a call from a secret source. The voice on the line, trembling but resolute, reveals Diana's memoir wasn't leaked by chance. Someone in the palace planned this, and they're not done. William grips the phone, his heart pounding. He knows this storm is only beginning, and to protect his mother's legacy, he'll have to fight a battle he never prepared for. Night falls over Kensington Palace, but the chandeliers glow in the drawing room can't lift the heavy atmosphere. William, Prince of Wales, stands by a large window gazing into the darkened garden where raindrops glisten under streetlights. The man, known for his calm, dutiful demeanor, can't hide the turmoil within. His eyes, usually bright with confidence, now hold a storm of emotions, anger, pain, and a faint fear of what lies ahead. King Charles's shocking Westminster speech, where he apologized for his wrongs to Diana, echoes in William's mind. That confession, though sincere, has exposed a fracture in the monarchy, and William knows he can't stay on the sidelines. He makes a decision in silence. Refusing his security detail, William drives alone through London's wet streets to Clarence House. He wants this meeting private, free from media scrutiny or palace whispers. Stepping into the familiar study, the scent of aged wood and fireplace smoke pulls him back to childhood memories, days when Diana was alive, when their family was a perfect facade for the public. Now the room feels oppressive, as if the walls themselves hold secrets no one dares speak. Charles sits behind his desk, his face, gaunt eyes red, as if he's wrestled with his conscience all night. He looks up as William enters, and their eyes meet, both feeling the weight of the conversation to come. Charles stands, his voice hoarse with remorse. I thought Camilla was my refuge, but it seems she was where I hid from responsibility. I was wrong, William, and I don't know how to fix it. The confession, though heartfelt, cuts William like a knife. He stands silent, but memories flood his mind like a tidal wave. He recalls long nights as a child, hiding with Harry behind doors, hearing their mother's sobs. He remembers Diana's tight embraces, her trembling voice whispering, "Be strong, because one day you'll have to fix what's broken." William clenches his fist, nails digging into his palms, fighting the rage rising within. He wants to scream, to demand why his father let everything crumble, but he stands still, afraid one wrong word could snap the fragile thread between them. Finally, William speaks, his voice low, but sharp as a blade. "You talk of fixing things, but do you know how much Mother suffered? Do you know how she tried to hold this family together while you only thought of Camilla? You didn't just hurt her, you hurt all of us." Charles bows his head, his shoulders trembling, as if the word's weight is too much. He offers no defense, no excuses. In that moment, he's not a king, just a father facing the wreckage of his choices. William turns and leaves, but a fire has ignited within him. He won't let the past repeat, won't let his family or the monarchy be torn apart again. Back at Kensington Palace, Catherine waits in their private room, her eyes filled with concern but resolute. Without a word, she leads William to an old safe holding their family's most precious relics. Inside is Diana's diary, its leather cover, worn pages, yellowed with time. Catherine hands it to him, and William opens it, flipping to the final page. A handwritten line from his mother stops him cold. "If I'm gone, let William start anew, but keep that woman away from my children." William grips the diary, his hands shaking uncontrollably. The words aren't just a plea, they're a warning, a call to action from his mother. He looks at Catherine and for the first time voices what he's long kept buried. "Camilla isn't just Father's past. She's a threat to our future, and I won't let that happen." Catherine places a hand on his shoulder, her voice soft but firm. "We'll do what's right, William. Not just for your mother, but for our children and for this monarchy." In that moment, William feels the strength of his wife, a force to guide him through the dark days ahead. He knows the fight to protect his mother's legacy, and the monarchy's future has only just begun. Outside the palace, the public storm grows. Camilla, determined to reclaim her standing, after Charles's controversial speech, prepares for a grand event at London's Royal Albert Hall, a charity gala to bolster her image as queen. She chooses a striking red silk gown, a symbol of power and confidence, but beneath it she can't hide her anxiety. Her media advisor's face is taut with worry, urge caution. One voice trembling pleads, "Your Majesty, the public is furious." Protests demanding justice for Diana are spreading. "If you appear now, we fear a backlash." Camilla, her eyes cold as steel, cuts him off. "I am the queen. No one can push me from the throne, not even William. If I don't show up, they'll think I'm afraid, and I am never afraid." Defying advice, she steps onto the stage, a forced smile on her lips, her hair impeccable under the chandelier's glow. But as the spotlight hits, she's met not with applause, but with boos. The crowd erupts, waving banners reading "Justice for Diana" and images of the late princess in her shimmering emerald gown. A group chants, their voices thick with anger, "Camilla, go home." The shouts hammer her heart, echoing the days when Diana was shunned by the monarchy. For the first time, Camilla feels the isolation Diana endured, not just from the public, but from the palace's invisible walls, where judging eyes and whispers now turn against her. She maintains her forced smile, delivering her speech with astonishing calm, but backstage her legs nearly give way. Her face pales, her hands clutch her pearl-encrusted bag nails, digging into her palms to suppress the trembling. A panicked advisor rushes to her, whispering, "Your Majesty, we've just learned an internal email from you to Sir Edward Young has leaked to the press. In it, you demanded we halt Diana's charitable projects and limit Prince William's role in royal reforms. The media is calling it a plot against Diana's legacy. Someone in the palace did this deliberately, and they're targeting you." Camilla freezes, her breath quickening. That email, written in a moment of anger months ago, was a mistake she thought buried in the palace's secure servers. Now exposed, it's a dagger aimed at her position. She turns to the advisor, her eyes blazing with fury and fear. "Who?" she snarls, each word hissed through clenched teeth. "Who dared do this to me?" The advisor lowers his gaze, unable to meet her eyes. "We don't know yet, Your Majesty, but it's someone with access to internal systems. We're investigating, but the press has copies and the public, they're enraged." Camilla retreats to a secluded corner backstage, leaning against the wall to keep from collapsing. Her breathing is heavy, her mind racing with images, screaming headlines, growing protests, and Diana's shadow smiling from eternity. She realizes her enemy isn't just outside in the jeering crowds or tabloid pages. The enemy is within the palace, someone close, powerful, and determined to destroy her. She straightens, wiping sweat from her brow, her face hardening. "Summon the media team," she orders, her voice steady. "I want to know who's behind this, and I want them punished. No one threatens my throne." In her mind, a plan forms, not just to protect her position, but to ensure those who challenge her pay dearly. The storm is coming, and Camilla won't be swept away without a fight. A plane lands at Heathrow on a dreary afternoon, London's sky blanketed in heavy gray clouds as if crushing any lingering hope. Harry, Duke of Sussex, descends the steps, his eyes somber but resolute, like a warrior returning to an old battlefield. Though he stepped back from royal duties, he carries wounds that never heal, pain from a fractured family torn between loyalty to his mother, Princess Diana, and estrangement from his father, King Charles III. This return isn't for reconciliation. Harry comes to confront, to force his father to face the mistakes that shattered their family and expose Camilla, whom he believes is the root of their misery. The public reason for his visit is a charity event for disadvantaged children, a cause he and his mother shared. But in the shadows of Clarence House, a private meeting is arranged. Harry demands to see his father alone. No advisors, no aides, no cameras. Stepping into the familiar study, the scent of old wood and fireplace smoke pulls him back to childhood, when their family was a flawless image for the world. Now the room hums with tension, as if the air holds its breath for an explosion. Charles sits behind his desk, his face haggard, eyes weary, as if haunted by ghosts of the past. His Westminster apology, admitting his wrongs to Diana, still fuels headlines, but to Harry it's a belated confession, too weak to heal the scars etched in his soul. Charles rises, reaching to embrace his son, but Harry raises a hand, his gaze cold and sharp as a blade. "I'm not here for more apologies, Father," Harry says, his voice low but seething. "You spoke too late when Mother can't hear you. I'm here to show you what you've let happen and who's behind it all." Without preamble, Harry places a small black USB drive on the desk, its weight heavy with consequence. "You need to see this," he says, his voice trembling with restrained emotion. "And then you owe me an answer." Charles' hands shaking plugs the USB into his laptop. The screen flickers, revealing a secretly recorded video from a Buckingham Palace meeting room. Camilla, her face cold and resolute, leads a discussion with senior officials. Her voice is unwavering. Harry and Meghan are no longer working royals. Continuing their security privileges is unnecessary. "We need to send a clear message they don't belong here. If that puts them at risk, that's the price they pay." The video ends and the room falls into suffocating silence. Charles bows his head, gripping the desk, his knuckles white as he clings to composure. Harry stares into his father's eyes, his voice shaking with anger and pain. "Did she order it, or did you let her?" Charles looks up, his eyes shattered as if his final defenses have crumbled. He opens his mouth, but the words catch in his throat. Finally, he whispers, hoarse with regret, "I didn't stop her, Harry. I let Camilla decide, thinking it would keep the peace. But I was wrong, and the cost was you, your family." The confession, sincere but agonizing, cuts Harry deeply. He stands, frozen fists clenched, his eyes burning with disappointment and sorrow. "Peace," he repeats, his voice breaking. "You call putting Meghan and me in danger peace. You call letting Mother live in loneliness, abandoned by this institution. Peace, you chose her, not us, not Mother." Charles buries his face in his hand, his shoulders trembling, as if the weight of his past crushes him. Harry turns and leaves, abandoning Charles to the dim light of the desk lamp. Outside, under London's cold rain, Harry pauses, his breath mingling with the mist. He could release the video, weaponizing it to destroy Camilla and shake the monarchy. But he knows revenge won't bring his mother back or mend his family. Instead, Harry makes an unexpected move. He sends a copy of the video to William with a brief, weighty message. "You're the only one who can stop her. Don't let Mother die in vain." When William watches the video at Kensington Palace, a jolt runs through him. Camilla's words and actions confirm his suspicions. She's not just part of a painful past, but an ongoing threat to their family and the monarchy. For the first time in years, William feels a bond with his brother, forged by their love for their mother and a shared desire to protect her legacy. Gripping his phone, he whispers, "Harry, you're right. We'll do this together." William seeks Catherine, sharing the video and his revelations. In Kensington Palace's quiet drawing room, they sit across from each other, the firelight casting determined shadows on their faces. Catherine takes William's hand, her voice steady. "Camilla's gone too far. If we don't act, she'll destroy everything your mother built. We need to bring this truth to the Royal Council, and we need your father on our side." William nods, his eyes alight with a forming plan. Harry's video, combined with Camilla's leaked email from the Royal Albert Hall, are powerful weapons. But he knows confronting Camilla and saving the monarchy requires their father's support, and perhaps for the first time in decades, the unity of two brothers. A silent war has begun, and William is determined not to let his mother's legacy be buried again. The public storm erupts on an April morning when a poll splashes across headlines. 62% of people under 40 say they'd abandon the monarchy if Camilla remains at Charles's side. The statistic rings like an alarm through Buckingham Palace's marble halls. On London streets, protests swell with banners of Diana, and cries of justice for our Queen. International media amplify the chaos, with headlines blaring British monarchy on the brink of collapse. The pressure forces the Royal Council to convene an emergency meeting in Buckingham Palace's Grand Conference Room. The air is thick, each attendee aware that today's decisions will shape the monarchy's future. William, as heir, faces his father. Camilla, still queen, appears pale, her eyes mixing anxiety with defiance. Senior advisors, from Sir Edward Young to media officials, sit in tense silence, awaiting a spark to guide them through the tempest. William rises, his voice strong, yet laced with pain, echoing through the room. After weeks of chaos, Camilla's leaked email, demanding Diana's charities be curtailed, and protests demanding justice, the council must face the crisis. As heir, William carries the burden of shaping the monarchy's path. He proposes a radical overhaul, reducing Camilla's ceremonial role, elevating Catherine to international duties, and publicly acknowledging the royal family's past wrongs. He doesn't mention Harry's video, but his glance at Camilla carries a clear message. He knows the truth. and he won't let her manipulate the monarchy further. The room is silent, but the air crackles with suppressed emotions. Camilla, unable to contain herself, leaps to her feet, her voice trembling with anger and hurt. "I've sacrificed my life for Charles, for this monarchy I've endured. Curses, contemptuous stares to stand by him. You can't treat me like I'm disposable." She looks around for support, but this time no one speaks. Charles bows his head, hands clenched as if wrestling with himself. Advisors avoid her gaze, and William resolute responds, "This isn't personal, Your Majesty. This is about the monarchy's survival." Camilla, realizing she stands alone, leaves the room, her steps heavy with the collapse of her ambitions. Soon after, she announces her withdrawal from major public events, a move that sends shockwaves through the kingdom. Social media erupts with millions of opinions. Some call it a victory for Diana. Others fear the monarchy's stability is crumbling. Meanwhile, Charles makes an unprecedented choice. He requests a live national television address, unscripted, unvetted by advisors. Appearing before the cameras, he sheds royal grandeur, just a man facing his people. His face weathered, his voice raw. "I wasn't strong enough to choose what was right. I hurt those I loved most, my wife, my sons, and you who trusted me. My silence became complicity, but today I choose to speak." He pauses, eyes glistening. "I promise to do all I can to heal the fractures I've caused. Not for the throne, but for those I love, and for this nation's future." The brief speech shakes the kingdom. On the streets, calls for abolition, quiet replaced by heated debates. The public begins to see Charles differently, not as a king of mistakes, but as a man seeking redemption, however late. Watching from Kensington Palace, William feels a spark of hope. He knows his father has chosen his side, and now they have a chance to rebuild not just the monarchy, but their family. A year passes since the storm shook the monarchy. Buckingham Palace's roads are quieter, but the echoes of those chaotic months linger like a shadow in the British psyche. Camilla, once queen, has fully retreated from public life. She resides in a secluded Wiltshire manor, far from media glare, protest chants, and the throne she once coveted at all costs. Surrounded by a few loyal staff and memories of a monarchy she thought hers, she lives quietly. The public no longer sees her in headlines but whispers, "Persist, has Camilla truly surrendered? Or is she biding her time?" At the kingdom's heart, William and Catherine, Prince and Princess of Wales, embark on an ambitious mission, reshaping the monarchy for a new century. They open palaces, Buckingham to Kensington, for charity programs, transforming ancient castles into symbols of compassion rather than opulence. Royal ceremonies are streamlined, shedding outdated extravagance. Catherine, with grace and resolve, leads initiatives for education and mental health causes Diana championed. William, as heir, pledges transparency, engaging in public dialogues and answering questions the royals once dodged. One autumn morning, as golden leaves fall across Buckingham Palace's square, William addresses a crowd announcing the Royal Future Fund, a project to modernize the monarchy and connect with younger generations. His voice is firm yet heartfelt. "We can't change the past, but we can build a better future, one rooted in truth, compassion, and trust." The crowd applauds, but William's eyes betray a lingering unease. He knows that despite progress, the monarchy rests on fragile ground where past fractures remain unhealed. At St. George's Chapel in Windsor, a quiet ceremony unfolds, attended only by Charles, William, and a few trusted aides. In the soft light of stained glass windows, Charles, visibly aged, approaches the altar, holding the royal crown, symbol of power and duty. With trembling hands, he removes its sparkling blue sapphire, the stone from Diana's engagement ring, carrying an era's love and pain. He places the stone in a small wooden box alongside a handwritten letter, its script shaky but emotional. Handing the box to William, his eyes red, he says hoarsely, "This is all I can do to give back to your mother. Don't let your apologies come too late like mine, William. Rebuild where I broke." William takes the box, his heart heavy. He says nothing, only nods, but his eyes vow silently he won't let his mother's legacy fade. As Charles leaves the chapel, his back stooped, William clutches the box, feeling the weight of the stone and a nation's expectations. Concurrently, Charles secretly rewrites his will. He allocates much of his personal wealth to establish the Princess Diana Foundation, a global charity aiding children and women from Mumbai's slums to Middle Eastern refugee camps. He keeps this private, but when news leaks, the public's view shifts not as a king of errors, but as a man seeking atonement, however delayed. The story closes on a chilly winter day on Buckingham Palace's balcony, where William stands with Catherine and their children, George, Charlotte, and Louis. The crowd below cheers, waving Union Jack flags the air lighter than a year ago. Behind them, the throne gleams in the stateroom, but its light no longer falls on Camilla. It belongs to a new generation, a new future, one William and Catherine strive to build. Yet William's smile hides a deep concern. He looks at the crowd, then at Catherine, whispering, "We've come far, but is it enough? Can we heal the cracks? Father left, or will this monarchy always teeter on the edge?" Catherine squeezes his hand, her eyes unwavering. "We will, William, not for the throne, but for those who believe in us and for your mother." The answer lies in the future, a future where Diana somewhere watches with a smile. But in William's heart, a question lingers. Will his efforts protect his mother's legacy, or will the past's shadows haunt the monarchy forever? Above London, the clouds part, revealing a faint ray of sunlight. Perhaps it's a sign of hope, or just a fleeting calm before the next storm.